"I want my privacy back," Mom declared at Christmas. After 3 years of me paying all her bills, she wanted me out for a man she'd met online. I left silently that night. I, 28F, never thought I'd be writing this post, but here I am, sitting in a hotel room on December 26th, still trying to process what happened yesterday. It was supposed to be a normal Christmas. As normal as things could be in our household, anyway. For the past 3 years, I've been living with my mom after my dad passed away. Not because I couldn't afford my own place, but because she couldn't afford hers. Dad left some debt, the house had a reverse mortgage, and at 65, Mom was facing the prospect of working well into her 70s just to keep a roof over her head. So I moved in. I took over the rent for a decent 2-bedroom apartment, paid all the utilities, bought the groceries, and even covered her car insurance. I didn't mind, she raised me after all, and I was in a position to help. My job in software development pays well, and while I could have been saving for my own place, family comes first. At least, that's what I always believed. Yesterday started like any Christmas. I woke up early to prep the turkey, made the stuffing from scratch the way Dad used to, and even decorated the small dining table with the old family centerpiece Mom insisted on keeping. My brother, 30M, and his wife couldn't make it this year. They're expecting their first child and the doctor advised against travel, so it was just Mom and me. The turkey came out perfect. Golden brown, juicy, everything you'd want. I'd spent 3 days preparing, making sure everything was just right. Mom had been in one of her moods all morning, barely speaking, but I chalked it up to missing Dad and my brother. The holidays are hard after you lose someone. We sat down to eat around 2 p.m. I'd just served us both and taken my first bite when she said it. "You need to move out." I thought I'd misheard. The TV was on in the background, some Christmas movie I'd put on for ambience. "What?" I asked, fork halfway to my mouth. She took another bite of turkey, chewed deliberately, and swallowed before repeating herself. "You need to move out. By the end of January." I set my fork down, keeping my voice level. "Really? I pay the rent, the bills, and the groceries. It's time for you to have your own life," she said, not meeting my eyes. "And I want my privacy back." That's when I noticed her phone on the table, screen lit up with a text notification. A man's name I didn't recognize with a heart emoji next to it. "Is this about him?" I asked quietly. Her face flushed. "That's none of your business. Mom, I've been supporting us both for 3 years. I think I deserve some explanation if you're suddenly kicking me out." She put her fork down hard enough that it clattered against the plate. "I'm not kicking you out. I'm asking for my apartment back. You make good money. You can afford your own place." "Your apartment?" I couldn't help the incredulous tone. "I've paid every cent of rent for 3 years. My name is on the lease." "It was my home first," she snapped. "And frankly, I'm tired of feeling like a guest in my own space. Harold wants to spend more time here, and..." "Harold? Who's Harold?" She sighed dramatically. "I've been seeing someone for a few months. He's moving in February 1st, so I need you out by then." I sat there, turkey growing cold on my plate, trying to process what was happening. My mother was throwing me out of an apartment I paid for, to move in a man I'd never even heard of until that moment. "You could have talked to me about this before Christmas dinner," I said finally. "Given me some notice, introduced me to this person who's apparently important enough to replace me." "Don't be so dramatic," she said, taking another bite as if we were discussing the weather. "It's not replacing you. It's just time for both of us to move on." I didn't say another word. I stood up, left my plate on the table, and went to my room. I heard her call after me, something about being childish, but I didn't respond. I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the holidays, birthdays, and random Tuesdays I'd spent making sure she was comfortable and cared for after Dad died. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I made calls to hotels until I found one with vacancy. I packed 2 suitcases with essentials, clothes, toiletries, my laptop, and important documents. I left everything else. The furniture I'd bought, the TV, the kitchen appliances I'd replaced when the old ones broke down. At 7 a.m., while she was still asleep, I wrote a note. "Rent is paid through January. Utilities are on autopay from my account. I'll cancel them February 1st. Good luck with Harold." I left my key on top of the note. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I just left. Now I'm in this hotel room, trying to figure out my next steps. I've already contacted a real estate agent about apartments. I've got enough saved for a deposit, and my credit is good. I'll be fine practically speaking. But emotionally, I feel hollowed out. 3 years of support, of putting my life on hold, erased over Christmas turkey. For a man she'd never even mentioned. My brother called an hour ago. Apparently, Mom rang him in tears, saying I'd abandoned her on Christmas. I told him what happened, and he was silent for a long time before saying, "She did the same thing to Dad, you know. Before he got sick. There was another man then too, but it didn't last. I didn't know. Dad never said a word about it. I'm not sure what I'm looking for here. Advice? Validation? I don't know if I did the right thing by leaving without confrontation, but I couldn't stay another night in that apartment knowing I was just a placeholder, a convenient ATM until something better came along. Was I wrong to leave like that? Should I have fought harder for the apartment I've been paying for? Or is this just the clean break I needed but was too comfortable to make on my own? Update 1. 3 days later. First, I want to thank everyone for the supportive comments and messages. I didn't expect this post to get so much attention, and reading your stories and advice has helped me feel less alone. I've spent the last 3 days in the hotel, working remotely and apartment hunting. Yesterday, I found a place, a small one-bedroom not far from my office. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean in a safe area, and most importantly, it's mine. I can move in next week, which means only a few more days in this hotel. My mom has called 17 times and left 8 voicemails. I listened to the first one, where she alternated between crying and yelling about how I'd abandoned her, just like your father did. I haven't listened to the rest. I did text her to let her know I was safe, but that I needed space. My brother came through in a big way. He called yesterday and told me he'd spoken with Mom at length. Apparently, this Harold is someone she met online 3 months ago. They've only met in person twice. My brother tried to caution her about moving so quickly, especially with someone she barely knows, but she shut him down. The most revealing part? She told my brother she'd been supporting me for 3 years and it was time I stood on my own 2 feet. When he reminded her that I paid all the bills, she said, "But I gave her a place to live when she had nowhere to go." That's when I realized there's no winning here. In her mind, she's the one who made sacrifices, not me. She's rewritten our entire arrangement to make herself the generous benefactor. I've decided to go low contact for now. I'll make sure the utilities transfer smoothly when I cancel them, and I've arranged for a moving company to pick up my remaining belongings next week when I know she'll be at her part-time job. My brother offered to be there to supervise. One bright spot in all this. My company has a relocation bonus for employees who move closer to the office. I'd never applied for it because the apartment with Mom was already relatively close. But my new place is walking distance and HR approved the bonus yesterday. It's enough to cover the security deposit and first month's rent. I'm still processing everything, but I'm starting to see this forced change as an opportunity rather than just a loss. For 3 years, I've been living in a holding pattern, telling myself it was temporary. Maybe this is the push I needed to start building my own life again. Update 2. 2 weeks later. I've been in my new apartment for a week now, and it's starting to feel like home. It's strange having a space that's entirely mine. No one else's dishes in the sink, no one else's preferences to consider when decorating or buying groceries. I bought myself a houseplant yesterday. A small thing, but Mom was allergic, so I never could have one before. The moving company collected my things without issue. My brother was there as planned and reported that Mom spent the whole time telling the movers what an ungrateful daughter I was. One of them apparently asked, "If she's so terrible, why are you upset she's leaving?" Mom had no answer for that. Harold, it turns out, is real. And my brother finally met him when he came to the apartment while the movers were there. According to my brother, he seemed confused about the whole situation and mentioned something about thinking I had already moved out months ago. So Mom had been lying to him too. I finally answered one of Mom's calls 3 days ago. She started with the usual guilt trip about abandonment, but when that didn't work, she switched tactics. Suddenly she was worried about money. Without my income, she can't afford the apartment. Harold, it seems, isn't in a position to contribute much financially. "I thought you said he was moving in," I said. "Well, yes, but his pension only goes so far," she admitted. That's when it clicked. She hadn't planned this out at all. She'd assumed I would either continue paying while living elsewhere, or that Harold would cover what I had been paying. Neither was true. I told her I couldn't help her financially anymore. I have my own rent and expenses now. I suggested she look into senior housing with income-based rent, or speak to the social worker at the community center about assistance programs. "But those places are for old people," she protested. "Mom, you're 65, I reminded her. "I'm not living in some depressing old folks' home just because you decided to abandon me," she said and hung up. My brother called later to say Mom had phoned him in tears, saying I was trying to put her in a nursing home. He set her straight, but she's still not accepting reality. Yesterday, I received a formal notice from the apartment management company. Mom had gone to the office and tried to have my name removed from the lease, claiming I had moved out and abandoned my responsibilities. Since my name is the primary one on the lease, they contacted me for clarification. I explained the situation truthfully. I had moved out but had paid rent through the end of January. I informed them I would not be renewing the lease in February. They thanked me for the information and said they would note it in their system. I feel guilty sometimes, especially when I think about Mom potentially struggling financially. But then I remember Christmas dinner and how easily she discarded 3 years of support and sacrifice. I remember all the times I put her needs before mine, only to discover I was just a convenient solution until something better came along. My therapist says I need to establish healthy boundaries now, or this pattern will continue indefinitely. She's right, but it's still hard. For now, I'm focusing on making this new place feel like home. I joined a local book club that meets at the coffee shop downstairs. I'm cooking meals I enjoy without worrying about accommodating someone else's preferences. Small steps toward building a life that's truly mine. Update 3. It's been a month since the Christmas incident, as my brother and I now call it. A lot has happened, so I wanted to provide one final update. First, Mom and Harold broke up. Apparently, once he realized the financial situation, that Mom couldn't actually afford the apartment without my support, he quickly lost interest. My brother said Mom was devastated, but is now claiming she ended things because he wasn't the right fit. With Harold out of the picture and the lease ending, Mom had no choice but to downsize. She initially refused to consider any of the senior living options I suggested, insisting they were for old people. But after the apartment management sent a formal notice that the lease wouldn't be renewed, reality finally set in. My brother and his wife helped her tour several places, and she eventually settled on a 55-plus community that's actually quite nice. It's smaller than the apartment we shared, but it includes utilities and has a community center with activities. Most importantly, it's within her budget with her Social Security and the part-time job she still has. The moving day was tense. I took the day off work to help, despite my therapist suggesting I might want to maintain distance. I couldn't not help. Despite everything, she's still my mom. She was cold at first, barely speaking to me as we packed the last of her things. But by the end of the day, as we arranged furniture in her new place, something shifted. "This is actually nicer than I expected," she admitted, looking around the small but bright living room. "The garden area out back is really pretty," I offered. "And you're on the ground floor, so you can plant those tomatoes you always talked about." She nodded, then suddenly sat down on her newly placed sofa and started crying. Not the manipulative tears I'd grown accustomed to, but deep, body-shaking sobs. "I messed everything up," she said when she could speak again. "With you, with Harold, with everything." I sat beside her, not touching, not yet. "Why did you tell me to leave like that? On Christmas of all days?" She wiped her eyes. "Harold said he couldn't move in if you were still there. He said I had to choose. And I thought, I really believed, he was my last chance at not being alone." "You weren't alone, Mom. You had me. But for how long? You're young. Eventually you'd move on, find someone, start your own family. And then what would I have?" I didn't have an answer for that. She wasn't entirely wrong. I had put my social life on hold these past 3 years, but not forever. Still, the way she handled it was inexcusable. "You could have talked to me," I said finally, "instead of ambushing me and acting like I was some freeloader you were doing a favor for." She nodded, looking down at her hands. "I know. I was embarrassed. About needing your help all this time. About being desperate enough to choose a man I barely knew over my own daughter. I couldn't admit any of that, so I made you the villain instead." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was more self-awareness than she'd shown in years. "We're taking small steps now." I helped her get internet set up in the new place and showed her how to use the community center's online calendar to sign up for activities. We had coffee last weekend, on neutral ground at a cafe halfway between our places. It was awkward but not hostile. My brother thinks I'm being too forgiving, but he hasn't lived with the guilt of potentially leaving our mother without options. Still, I'm maintaining boundaries. I've made it clear I won't be providing financial support beyond occasional gifts or emergency help. She needs to live within her means now. As for me, I'm settling into my new life. My apartment feels more like home every day. I joined a hiking group that meets on weekends. I'm dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to remember there's more to life than work and family obligation. Sometimes I think about that Christmas dinner, how one cruel moment changed everything. But maybe it needed to change. Maybe we were both stuck in a situation that wasn't healthy for either of us. I don't know what our relationship will look like going forward. I'm not sure I'll ever fully trust her again, or if she'll ever truly understand the hurt she caused. But we're both still here, still trying in our imperfect ways. For now, that has to be enough.